This is Rob Pirie with the Coffee Runs Deep podcast, where we interview coffee farmers, coffee roasters, and we share their stories. I truly hope you enjoy the experience. Well, hello and welcome. We have a cool show roasted up today. Marcus and I discuss how the coffee shop he works at, Lost and Found Coffee Co., is transitioning into roasting coffee. He tells his journey of learning on a small U.S. roaster and then finding a 25-pound Diedrich in town that was just not being used. We dive into coffee bag design, branding, inflation, and the seed market price. This episode is packed, so hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Coffee Runs Deep podcast. I'm your host, Rob Pirie. And today we have a special guest on, Mr. Marcus Gray. He is with Lost and Found Coffee Co. and is doing some pretty cool things over there. So, Marcus, tell me about yourself.
My name is Marcus Gray. I live up in North Mississippi with kind of a really cool company that is trying to bring specialty coffee to an extremely underserved market. So Lost and Found started as e-commerce back in like 2015, I want to say. This was before my coffee knowledge or my passion for coffee was even on the radar. So the owner was doing some e-commerce stuff and really wanted to serve people really strongly and decided e-commerce wasn't quite the move for it. So he rolled up to this parking lot and was looking at a building next to a business. Well, the owner of that business came out and was like, just put your coffee shop in here, man. So that business was called Relics Antique Market, and they are like this 2-story, 1,600 square foot, it's either 1,600 or 2,800 square foot antique mall. So it's just dusty antiques, really cool people. Most of them, they grew up in the 80s. So the music playing is from the 80s and everything. It's really cool. But so we were slinging coffee on a bar, no bigger than a kitchen island for 2 years. And we had some surprise visits from Southern Living magazine, and we're an honorable mention as best coffee shop in the South and stuff like that. So then eventually came time to expand. So last year in February, we signed off on a building and we shut down for about 2 or 3 months and then renovated a new space in a completely dead part of town with the hopes that a new business in it would kind of revamp this part of town, which back in the 70s was the place to be. So yeah, late February of last year, we moved into a new place, completely renovated it, moved everything into it, and started slinging coffee February 13th. And we've been doing it for a full year now. And since then, 2 new businesses have moved in, and the city's kind of paying more attention to that part of town because it's a place to be again, there's life there again. So
that's cool. How far away from y'all's original location?
So what?
How far away from y'all's original location?
We stay just over the tracks, and that literally means there's a train that runs through the city. And our new location is about 2 or 3 blocks over the train tracks from where the other location was.
Okay, so y'all pretty close then.
Yeah, I pass our other location on the way into work every single day.
Gotcha.
So, or our past location, not our other one, but yeah.
That's cool to hear. So what's kind of moving into the area then?
So it was, we are on the end of a strip mall, right? And there was nothing there. The local realtor guy bought it and renovated it for us pretty much. And then we moved in, and now on the other side, on the biggest tenant, a Taekwondo studio has moved in, which is really fun because you see these 7-year-old kids just running around in their karate outfits. And last week, the teacher came down and he was like, "Hey, one of my kids broke his finger. Can I have a bag of ice and a cappuccino to go, please?" And so that's down there. And then next door, we just got this really awesome kind of hip and trendy boutique. And she's a super awesome lady who has been doing online only for a long time, but came to where we're at and saw that just on a random Tuesday, the parking lot was full. And she was like, "This is exactly what I'm looking for." So to try to jump in front of the crowd and be in a spot before it was cool. So
yeah.
And then they just tore down a condemned Mexican restaurant that was in the parking lot next to us. that has been condemned since I was like 7, man. Like I've grown up in Tupelo, so they just now tore it down, and we're about to get a bunch of murals kind of painted around that area, and it's going to be a really really cool spot to hang out.
That's cool. Yeah, it's kind of I'm kind of in the same boat where the place I'm looking at to build out. It's like it's the older part of town. They call it the antique village because there's a lot of antique stores there and stuff like that. So it's kind of they have a local brewery that just went in like right over the train tracks, kind of like what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
I almost feel like you're talking about the same little spot that I'm looking at. And
What's the brewery?
It's called Le Chien, which means the dog in French.
Okay,
And
cool.
it's very like family friendly. Like they allow dogs in and like kids, and they have games. They have like trivia night. They have like impromptu night. So they have like a bunch of like events and stuff going on. The place I'm looking at is literally a parking lot over, but it's really it would be the only two kind of like, you know, attracting type things down there. Everything else just antique stores and, you know, like a bank and whatever else. So
yeah,
but that's cool. So it's cool to see like, you know, people going in and kind of getting these older locations kind of back up to hip. So that's cool, dude. So what got you into coffee in the first place? Did you start out like your coffee journey there, or did you start somewhere else?
I have to be careful with what I say here because it was kind of like illegal, but like it's okay. So I lived in England for some time. I worked with an organization that kind of sent students over there to experience a different culture. But a lot of that time was spent in a coffee shop. And previously, before England, I had to live in Dallas with the same company. And so again, a lot of that time was spent in a coffee shop. And I've always loved coffee, right? Like I've always been that guy to my friend group who's geeking out about coffee, but Tupelo had nowhere to express that. So when I got to Dallas, right, nice coffee scene, really cool, hip shops, everybody's doing something different. And I'll never forget it, man. It was so cool. I walked down into a place called Magnolia Sous La Pont, and I contribute to them like my love for specialty coffee. I asked the barista, like, you know, what's on drip today? I didn't know what I was asking. Like, what you got today? Light, medium, whatever. And she goes, well, we have this medium roast from a roastery called Onyx. And if you just kind of sip it, swish it around your mouth, you'll get notes of like blueberry cobbler, peach tart, and stuff like this. And I was like, whatever, dude, I just got to go write my criminal justice essay. So took it, not thinking anything of it. And I'm writing about like subpoenas and all this. And I get super bored. So I try it, right? I'm like, maybe she's onto something. And as soon as I did exactly what she said, it was like, I don't know if you've seen Ratatouille, but when Remy like eats the cheese and the strawberry, and it was like that for me. So I immediately was like, coffee shop popping. Well, fast forward to England, sitting in a coffee shop, and it become pretty regular. They knew my order and all this, and the general manager was doing like a job fair, and everybody that was applying for the barista spot, they were like, yeah, I'm here for a week because I'm traveling. I just need some more money, or they didn't have any experience or anything. So kind of just went up to him and was like, hey man, I've got income sorted out for 6 months. Like I want to learn coffee really bad. Can I please work just for tips or something like that? And he kind of looked at me really funny, like, you don't have a worker's visa. Like you're here on a visitor visa just to work in coffee. And I was like, yeah, man. Yeah. So, they started me out on the bar and just kind of threw me into the fire. They showed me the technique to steam milk and showed me the technique to like pull a shot. And so I started doing that. I did that for 6 months for free. And as I was coming back to America, I had this vision like, oh, I want to start this. I want to do this. I want to do this. Well, Lost and Found had popped up. They had gone from that e-commerce phase into Relics, the antique phase. And so I pick on the owners because we're like really good friends and we joke about it. But I emailed them and said, hey, I'm a 19-year-old kid who lives across the world. I want to work full time for you. And they just kind of chuckled and they were like, we're not really hiring right now, but definitely come geek out about coffee with us. And so I walked in, and before I even placed my order, I was greeted and they were like, oh, you're Marcus, you're the guy who emailed us. And the rest is history. So I expressed interest early on in roasting and that I had an idea for a roastery because That was an also underutilized part of the market in town, but that was just where I fell in love with in terms of roasting. So we cupped coffee that I had roasted myself, and it was just like, it just made sense to jump onto a team that already had upward trend and upward momentum instead of starting from scratch and potentially failing. So didn't start with Lost and Found, but it started in Dallas, Texas, in a basement coffee shop. So
Heck yeah, dude. That's super cool. Um, so was you born here or was you born over in like UK or something?
I was born in Tupelo.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
from Mississippi then?
Yeah, I'm from
Gotcha.
Mississippi, born and raised.
Okay. So, well, let's move into that then. So you get to Lost and Found and, you start doing the roastery. What was that process like? How did y'all determine like what machine you wanted or what size you wanted? Like how much quantity y'all was going to be kind of like starting with?
Yeah. Again, man, our entire story at Lost and Found has pretty much been an upward battle of like, stumbling forward and figuring it out. Like we're just now to the point where we're like, all right, we're doing this thing for real. So when I started at Lost and Found in 2019, I had an office space with an air roaster because I was doing my own concept, right? Like, and he knew that, like Colin, the owner, knew that I was doing my own thing on the side and whatever. Had an air roaster about this big. We called it the NutriBullet because that's what it looked like. And so I was spending time just playing with it, right? And then he comes to me, and we have a buddy who owns a coffee shop down in Jackson called Native Coffee Shop. If you're ever in that area, they're killing it, man. He's a super good guy, just got into coffee, but he had a 1 pound US Corp roaster, and they were going to do the roasting thing. They were going to roast their own, but just decided to keep serving who they serve wholesale. So he put it on Facebook to sell, and I sent it to Colin. I was like, dude, can we get it? Just jokingly. And well, he came in 2 days later. He was like, hey buddy, you're going to be a full-time roaster. Like you're going to be roasting for real. And in a dusty antique mall, man, just broke into tears. I was like, this is it. This is finally happening. So we moved it in to my office that I had, and we were just playing with it, man. I've never been on an industrial roaster, even if it is just 1 pound. So kind of playing with it, figuring it out. And then just recently we got our 25 pound Diedrich. And it's kind of a crazy story too, that it's been sitting in Tupelo for like 3 decades now, for like 30 years. It's just been in somebody's garage. And the guy who was roasting on it went out of business in 2014. And we serve him. He's a regular at Lost and Found. And he was like, yeah, man, just come pick it up. He's like, you'll have to clean it real good, but come pick it up and we'll work something out later. So
That's
in terms
awesome.
of like, yeah, man, in terms of just figuring it out, it all just kind of fell into our hands, like, and we did a lot of research because we were going to go like, the Probat route or the Loring route or like this and stuff. So, but everything that we needed just literally like fell into our hands. And so now we're just still figuring that out as we go.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, you can do a lot with 25 kilo.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's gonna be a game changer for y'all then.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
what year is it? Do you know, or does it say on there anything?
It is a late 80s model.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what it is. I had my buddy from the Frothy Monkey. He came down and he was looking at it, just geeking out with me. But I mean, it's a workhorse, man. We had to take it completely apart. There was still coffee in the cooling bin from 2016. So
Oh dang.
I told the guy that it was a vintage roast and he got a chuckle out of it, but I was kind of grossed out. It's like dusty coffee, but and we looked inside of it and it's healthy, man. It's a workhorse. We can roast, 40 bags of coffee just like that, and compared to the 1 pound roaster, so.
Oh yeah, completely different.
Yeah.
That's cool. So it doesn't have any type of digital or any like hookup, so y'all would have to probably install any of that if y'all wanted to then, huh?
Yeah, so we have that was another battle that we faced with the 1 pound US Corp roaster, is it didn't have any like thermocouplers or anything, so we had to do research and figure out where to put the probes and how to program them. So we run everything through a fidget, which just decodes it in real time, and then through the fidget we use a roasting program on my laptop, and it charts everything with me. So we did that in the small roaster and the 25 pound one as well. So yeah, we had to kind of do our own thing to it, but it works really, really well.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. If you can find a good deal like that, I'm talking to somebody in New Zealand, they just found like kind of a same thing as like they bought a 25 kilo, I think, toper or something like that for like $2,500, and it still works and stuff. And it's like, it's like, somebody was just wanting to get rid of it. And it's just crazy because if you can find a deal like that, I mean, you're saving so much money. And then, get somebody to come in there and, get it up to code certified, or if you got the time, do it yourself and stuff. And you can just save so much money because they're so expensive, dude.
Yeah.
And I don't know, regardless of what y'all eventually work out, I'm sure it ain't gonna be like going and buying a brand new $40,000-$50,000
not
machine.
at all. I think right now we're talking about, I think we're going the percentage route. So percentage of sales would go to him until it's, paid off or whatever. But like, yeah, that's the thing that people don't understand about getting into coffee. It's so expensive, man.
Yeah.
Like our espresso machine is 20 grand new. Our scales, we just had an Akai scale go out, and that's a few $100 there. if one of our kettles falls and breaks, it's another few $100. Like roasters can get up to like 70-80 grand, man. It's like crazy expensive.
Yeah, it definitely adds up. So y'all are running the 25K now then?
Yeah, so we don't have any of our bags like out for sale yet because we really want to have it like dialed in, and we'll touch on that later. But yeah, we're playing with it. We're roasting in it. We're doing all these like crazy products. We're trying to figure out where we're buying our coffee from, kind of just dialing in like our roasting identity, because we have a coffee identity. Like everybody knows when they see the lantern, oh, that's Lost and Found and stuff like that. But yeah, really what kind of style of roasting we want to go for, style of bag, what sets us apart, just trying to get the edge.
Yeah. So right now y'all are purchasing coffee from another roaster then, basically?
Yeah, we have a really, really good relationship with Black and White Roasters.
Okay.
We were like their third or fourth wholesale partnership. That's what Lost and Found started as, was private label through them.
Gotcha.
And so Black and White is owned by Kyle Ramage and Lynn Butler, two world barista champions who are just killing it, man. So, and we have such a dynamic relationship with them to where like we can call them and say, hey man, we're trying to figure out this with our roastery. And even though like we're not going to buy coffee from them anymore one day, Kyle is just like, oh yeah, man, let's come down and like, let's hang out. Let's go drink some bourbon and talk about coffee and do this. And so, yeah, we serve Black and White right now. And occasionally we drop our coffee. Like we do some specialty drops here and there. And then we will sling, some of our coffee on espresso or cold brew or whatnot, just kind of phasing it in instead of just dumping it all in at once.
Yeah, that's cool, dude. Now I've kind of noticed that too. Like it is hit or miss on, the community, who's going to help and who's going to, not help. But for the most part, it's the same way down here. I've gotten so much support from other roasters and stuff. That's just like, we're going to be in competition, but it's like, I don't know, like we've all kind of discussed, like we want the tide to raise everybody up, the more we can kind of educate and get more people. Like you're probably in the same situation as we are down here. Like the market's not saturated at all. There's tons of people that don't even know about specialty coffee that we can get. It's not like you're in Portland or, LA or San Diego or something like that. So what are y'all's plans on managing green? And do y'all have that figured out yet as far as like purchasing, storage and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's sort of kind of. So with everybody moving into the strip mall that we're in, it's bittersweet, right? Jobs are being provided. It's a bumping area, but we were kind of hoping to buy the building next to us as well and turn that into our roastery. So we're kind of having to regroup on that a little bit, but as far as greens go, we're kind of getting some samples from a bunch of different companies right now. Black and White, again, helping us out big time. Oftentimes they will send us samples of what they have. So, you can look on their website, and I remember if you see Dairy Kajawa, they sent me some green beans of Dairy Kajawa and I got to roast that. So, yeah, we're looking at this company. I met them at a coffee expo, a super awesome company that focuses on getting small roasteries up and running. They do, and this may benefit you as well. They do intent to purchase style. So you don't have to purchase an entire freight of green coffee up front. You can kind of just work with them, and they'll help you out a little bit. So we're working with them kind of. They're called Lena Coffee Providers. Super awesome company. And then yeah, just kind of again figuring out who we are. We use Genuine Origin a lot because they have been recommended to us by multiple companies. I mean, Black and White and some roasteries in Alabama, Tennessee, and stuff like that. A lot of people use them because they're trustworthy and they're honorable. That's our big thing, is like making sure we're not getting mass produced coffee where the farmers aren't getting compensated enough and stuff like this. So yeah, kind of poking around a little bit of everywhere. I imagine for the first little bit, we will stick with Genuine Origin and kind of dial in more with them. And then our goal is to be on the farm, be feet on the ground, picking the coffee and figuring some of that stuff out, roasting on site and making partnerships that way.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing I've kind of seen too, with like, the farmers down there that I've kind of spoken with is like, they definitely want to get more involved in what we're doing just as much as we're wanting to get involved in like what they're doing, so it's kind of like this mutual thing. I think it's definitely going to be pretty cool kind of going forward. So as far as like, y'all are testing out batches and stuff right now, what does that look like on a 25 kilogram machine? Are you like, y'all have to be burning through a good bit of coffee then at that point doing tests? Do you have like a little sample roaster or what y'all doing there?
That 1 pound roaster is our sample
roaster. Gotcha. So y'all still have it then?
Yeah, we kept it. So it's cool. We call the 1 pound, we call it Roast Malone. And then the 25 pounder is just, honestly, I hated it at first, but it is like an atrocious yellow, almost like the bag behind your head, man. Just as yellow and harsh on the eyes. So we call it Big Bird. Big Bird. But yeah, so we're sampling on the small roaster because I've got that one dialed in. Like I could do it with my eyes closed and produce good coffee. And then we were translating that to the big roaster. So we're translating from Roast Malone to Big Bird, and I mean, we've had to do a couple of test runs just to kind of clean out the inside. So we probably had like 2 years worth of leftover coffee that didn't fit in Roast Malone. So it's like 200 or 300 grams or whatnot. So we just made this big, like 20-pound bag of old coffee and just been sending it through there. So yeah, a little bit both and, we've got a Nicaraguan that we're waiting to throw through Big Bird because there was some technical difficulty that I was facing. So we put it on a halt for a minute, but yeah, so we're gonna throw a Nicaraguan through there. We have a top secret project thing that we're working on that we're gonna throw through the Big Bird. And both of those we will probably use, serve and or sell.
That's cool. So then as far as like, I guess roasting and like learning roasting, what's been your hardest kind of roasting concept to figure out or get right?
So yeah, hardest roasting concept that I had to figure out was probably, and it's like this for a lot of people, I think, but just sticking to a chart, right? Like even to this day, I overthink that chart so much. So like when I'm roasting, right, it's coming up on my laptop, this is my temperature, this is my rate of rise, and this is my bean curve and all this stuff. And it's like, I can so easily overthink that. So that was like the hardest thing for me to like kind of focus in and realize like, all right, when I turn the gas down, it affects the chart in this way. Because for me, that's a lot going on, man. I got a roaster going in front of me. I've got a computer and a laptop to my left, and I've got gas on my right. Like there's a lot going on there. So it was super easy to overthink all that very early on. And I wasted pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds of coffee just because I couldn't focus right. Because I think there's a lot of pressure as a roaster to like get it perfect on the first try. And so recently we had a call with Kyle Ramage, and I kind of picked his brain about that. I was like, yeah, man, like how do you focus in and dial in your coffees? How do you focus like that? Because for me, it's just a lot going on. And he goes, honestly, bro, we just kind of send it. Those were his exact words. He was like, we just kind of send it on coffee, man. And if we get it right, we get it right. And if we don't, we don't. So just as a young dude, his mind is scattered everywhere, but also as a roaster, like that was the biggest concept, is like perfection is not going to happen. And being okay with failure and being okay with not having a perfect coffee really, really took a lot of pressure off of me. And ever since I made that switch, probably about 2 or 3 months ago, is when I really stopped putting all this pressure on myself as a roaster. Ever since I made that switch, I've enjoyed roasting a lot more. I've been able to dial it in a lot more. And it's been that art form again. So, because baristas across America can oftentimes be extremely picky about their coffee. Pour over's done right, this espresso is done right. So that translates to a roaster as well, like be extremely picky about it. And there's a time and place for it for sure. Like you want the coffee that your customers are drinking to be excellent quality. But that's right now for me, that's not going to happen every single batch. So that was probably the hardest concept for me to get over, was just like focusing during my roast and kind of like getting a groove for everything. And then once I'm focused, realizing that it's not going to be perfect every single time. So yeah, like I said, once I got past those couple of things, it's been a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah. I've kind of noticed that too. Like there's just so many variables to it. And one thing that kind of threw me off in the beginning, like, you roast an Ethiopian and you get good at this Ethiopian, and all of a sudden you switch over to Sumatra and you start roasting Sumatra, and everything changes. Like the heat's got to be different. The drop temp's got to be different. Like the airflow is all, and it's nothing's the same, it seems like, from coffee to coffee. So it's almost like you're restarting on every origin, every kind of region of coffee you're roasting on. And yeah, it's definitely tough. And in the beginning, I mean, you're burning through so much green, not wasting. I mean, you still give it to friends and family and stuff like that, but it's just like it takes so much trial and error to actually get good. And I think a lot of people underestimate how many roasts and how many batches you got to actually do to get to a point where you're actually putting out some really quality coffee. For me, it was a ton. Like,
I mean, it's still a ton for us. I mean, we roast a lot behind the scenes, but don't sell or serve much of it because we're still getting our feet under the ground. But like if I pulled up my charts from when I first started roasting, man, like your rate of rise, you want it to be consistent and smooth. But like I said, just because I'm freaking out because I got a chart here, coffee there, gas here, air there, my charts are like boom, 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 like just all over the place, like a roller coaster, man. And so it's just like, oh man.
Yeah, it's funny to go back and look. I have one of the first charts. I mean, it was the same thing. It was like the temp was just all over the place, and it was horrible. But it's like you don't realize in the beginning how much a little bit of a change in gas can affect.
Oh my gosh.
The entire roast. And it's like, so it's just those micro little small adjustments in the gas. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, you're thinking I'll turn it up to, one whole notch or turn it up to 3, and it's just all over the place. So yeah, that took me a long time too. Just figuring out the gas, figuring out the airflow, figuring out kind of, once you master one coffee, well, then you're starting all over. Once you move over to South America, it's completely different again. So that was definitely tough. So what are y'all's future goals as far as like with the roastery and stuff like that? What's y'all's plans to kind of just stay there and roast for y'all selves, or do y'all plan to, do more online sales, or what's that look like?
A little bit of everything, man. So Lost and Found wants to have 5 locations across like every geographical region in America. In undersaturated markets, just so we can serve people and bring good coffee to people. So we really want to get into the wholesale game and e-commerce game and like just kind of have our brand out there. And then once we have more locations, of course we'll be roasting for them. But yeah, I mean, like short-term goals is just to get this thing going, like dial it in, serve it on espresso, serve it as a cold brew, have some bags on the shelf. And then the specialty like market in Mississippi is pretty small. So like getting in with local shops who, like to carry local roasters and stuff like that is a goal. And then, long-term is just supplying coffee to America through Lost and Found.
Yeah. I think the wholesale game is kind of important, especially once you get to a larger size roaster, like y'all have. I mean, you definitely got to have different wholesale accounts you're selling to, if there's a Whole Foods
Mm-hmm.
around or restaurants or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of something I've been kind of looking in as well, just trying to create a list and like, eventually, I'm gonna, the whole thing is like, once you get it up and going, like money's ticking. So you got to start hitting these places pretty quick. And uh, yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. So what do y'all feel y'all are doing like right, as far as like y'all's operations and kind of y'all's end goal? Like what's going right, and then what kind of do you feel could be going better?
What we're doing right, I think personally, is we're taking our time, man. Like, um, taking our time is the biggest part of it, because uh Colin, the owner, he's huge on like, let's do this thing slowly and let's do it right. So I know personally of roasters who um use the same roast profile, like we were talking about, same roast profile over every single origin, and they just sell it and they're moving out, right? Like they're saying yes to everything, they're getting their name out there, which is great, good for them. But their coffee's not great, man. So it's like we would much rather take our time, develop this program really slowly. And so when we have lost and found bags on the shelf, it's like, we're extremely proud of it, instead of like, yeah, it's good coffee. So I think that's something that I don't see a lot of, especially in Mississippi. So I think that's what is setting lost and found apart. Because yeah, man, I mean, we've got thousands of dollars tied up in inventory in our roastery that we're just not selling, right? Like it's investment money, if you want to call it. Um, and so that can be challenging at times, because I have this really good coffee that I drop, and I'm like, man, this is like, black and white quality. Can we serve it? Can we sell it? And it's just not time yet. And that's okay. It's okay that it's not time yet. So I think that's what we're doing really, really well, is fine tuning every aspect of it, so that whenever we're ready to pull the trigger, we don't have to fight with it anymore. Once we pull the trigger, it's like, you want a bag of coffee online? Let's get you a bag of coffee online. Um, and I'm confident in the coffee that we're producing and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that's the business plan that Lost and Found has always followed, and it has gotten us extremely far. I mean, like I said in the beginning, we were just a tiny bar inside of an antique mall, hard, but we did the slow route. We took our time, and we just kind of trust the process. So we're doing the same thing with the roastery, trusting the process, working really hard at it, and serving people really, really well through that. And then I would say that the thing that we struggle with the most, or like, I think that I know that I kind of regret a little bit, is not having a bag design ready. That's like something a lot of people don't think about, right? Like early on, we had a bag design that worked for the private label, and if you go to the coffee shops in town right now, or the coffee shop coffee on the shelf, all the bags look the same, which isn't a horrible thing, because they all have their own like logos and whatnot. But we really, really want to stand out. That's kind of like our biggest tie up right now is we're all huge bourbon guys, so it's like, do we emulate a bourbon brand and kind of like do that thing, or do we completely do a new style of packaging, or like what? So as we get closer to being ready to release our coffee, we're still kind of struggling and wrestling with the bag design, and kind of like a brand guide, because that's the first thing people are going to see when they look up our coffee, or if they walk past it on the shelf, or so I would say that's my advice to anybody who's getting into roasting, is have your bag design ready, man, because it's like it's a challenge to kind of get that up and going right now for us. Plus we have a really small team. So
Yeah, that and the lead times, because that's another thing too. I've been kind of looking at, because like you said, like bags, it's super important. So I've been kind of pricing that up, and just it's getting so expensive. Like what I priced up back in 2019, it's literally almost doubled as far as like impression
yeah,
costs, and getting the the, what do they call it, the, I don't know, it's like the, not the template, but the plates made to like,
yeah,
to stamp or whatever. And it's done went up so much. So it's like, I don't know. And then the lead times too, so if you're getting bags, pre-stamped, and, however many sides, it's costing a lot more, but then you may be having to wait 6 to 10 weeks to get all those bags in because of the order backup. So that's something you got to kind of, prepare for too. You may be ready to roast and give them the design thinking you're going to get bags in a week, and it's not going to be like, you're going to be probably waiting a month or two. So
yeah, that, and like also coffee, the C market itself is up like 54% from last year. That's crazy. So it's like adding that margin onto bags, it's like at some points, we're gonna be charging a lot for a bag of coffee just so we can break even on it. And that's pretty challenging too. And that's just one of the things about being in coffee right now, is everything is so expensive. Milk is like $3 a gallon for us right now. So it's extremely hard to get milk in and stuff like that. But yeah, that's another thing that's kind of like been a fight, is just the price of coffee in general. So
yeah, and that's one thing I know you're probably in the same kind of boat as we are down here. Like our inflation, is still going up, but it's nowhere near like the cost of, San Diego and like the East Coast and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like our gas price is still fairly cheap here. But it's like, yeah, dude, just everything is going up. And it's like, that's what I'm trying to figure out now too. Like what makes sense to sell a coffee bag at, cause I'm trying to run all my numbers and hand to the bank. And it's just, geez Louise, like you don't want to overinflate, but I don't know what to predict they'll be a year from now, so that's been kind of something I'm having to put a little bit of risk, overstate what I may be actually selling, just because I don't want to get hit with, with that. But yeah, it's pretty crazy right now with the inflation stuff. So, I think the other thing too, I think it's really cool is just moving slow. Like you said, like I feel whenever you do move slow, you give you give yourself time to get through the peaks and the valleys. Cause like there's going to be the valleys where things aren't going right. And if you're moving so fast that you can't withstand one of those valleys, then you're out of the game, But if you're moving slow enough where you can kind of ride out the peaks and valleys, and, it's kind of that marathon mindset. Like, I don't care what the pace is, we're just going to make it to the end. And I think that's one of the best mentalities you can have as a business owner, anything like that. So it's cool that y'all are kind of moving at that pace and, getting things kind of done. So heck yeah, dude. So then as far as bags, I do want to talk a little bit on bags then. Like what are y'all planning on bags as far as like 10-ounce bags, 12-ounce bags? Are y'all gonna be doing by the pound, or have y'all decided yet?
Yeah. So we're probably gonna stick with the 12-ounce like route.
Yeah, standard.
Like Onyx does 10-ounce, right? But they have that reputation to do a 10-ounce bag or box really with them. But and then Counterculture does 10 ounces. But even Black and White with as big as they are, they do 12-ounce bags, right? So it's like it's a great perceived value. Like, I'm getting a good amount of coffee for the $20 I'm dropping on it. So yeah, we're probably gonna stick with the 12-ounce route. And right now we're just trying to figure out like all the small details that catch an eye. Like, what color do we want the label to be? Because we've noticed like coffees with yellow labels or like orange labels don't sell like near as much as like a coffee with, a purple and blue label, or like a red and brown label, like stuff like that. So we're trying to figure out like what we want our bags to look like. Do we want to have, like we were thinking about doing like this roaster's notes, but it's attached to the bag instead of being on the label. So it's like a little clip on, and it's like, hey, here's what Marcus thinks about this coffee. And here's some information about the farmer. We want to do that, but how do we implement it into a bag? And then like the shape of the bag, like, do we want it to be rounded at the top, or do we want it to have like side pleats where it kind of folds in on itself? Or man, there's so many variables that go into it. And it's like, we had a graphic designer on our team for a while, but he took an awesome job doing graphic design in a more professional like manner. So we still commission him for a lot of stuff, but right now it's me and Colin kind of trying to figure out the bag design with input of the team as well. So because we don't want to tie up so much money into a bag and then hate it, so
and that's the other thing too. Like, you're not just buying like 100. They make you buy like 2,000 of them. So
yeah, I know.
Are y'all planning on getting everything pre-stamped, or are y'all going to be kind of like doing stickers, or have y'all decided that yet?
We really like the route of stickers, right? Like They're kind of clean. Like if you can get a label maker and a template, like we really like the idea of a sticker. So, but we also have so many companies in town that like are local printing companies that we've been working with in terms of like pre-stamp stuff or like making the stickers for us or whatnot. So we have a couple of mock-ups for both. Like, you know, do we get the bag already stamped with our logo and all this and then apply a sticker, like, and just do both, or what? So because Black and White, I'm like looking at their bags as I'm talking to you, they do both, right? And it works really, really well for them. So it's a clean bag too. So yeah, kind of both. And we're still experimenting with it and working with local companies that have the opportunity or have the ability to do it on a sample level for us, you know. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to look up Black and Whites then. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of been thinking too. I think my plan is to like get the thing that's not going to change stamped, which is, you know, the brand, the name.
yeah,
But then like the coffee and everything on the back, it almost has to be a sticker unless you are doing so much quantity that you can afford a bag with that detail of each coffee. So that's,
yeah,
I don't know, that's feel, it's just, yeah, like you're saying, it's so much to think about, dude. And like you can dive into the weeds on just the bag, and then you haven't
yeah,
even touched any other portion of the roastery
yeah.
process, you know.
And we have we have an awesome brand guide. Like we have an awesome branding, right? Like our logo is so sick, man. It looks like something that would be on a hat. It's like a badge logo with a lantern on it as like an homage to the train, because where we were before, the train tracks ran literally like, if this is the building, right, the train tracks ran right beside it because it was an
Oh
old
wow.
cotton factory. So the joke in the cafe was always like, oh, I didn't know we had a train coming through town, because it came through like 13 times a day. So anyways, our logo is like a lantern, like you would see on the front of a train and stuff like that. So we have an awesome brand guide, awesome brand colors, and like huge potential for a bag. It's just, how do we execute it well, you know? Like
Yeah.
that's just a part of coffee, man. It's like the logistics of it. How do we execute that well? So
Yeah. And there's always so many things to like dive down and learn about and do. But yeah, branding, I don't know, that's another thing. Just branding. If you can, there's coffee that I've tasted out there, and I know you probably tasted the same thing, where it's like it's not that good, but it's
mhm.
because their branding is so good. They're out there, you know, basically crushing it. But the
Yeah,
coffee is not that good. But then there's other, you know, people that have sent me coffee or that I've ordered coffee, and it's like their coffee is amazing, but their branding's not up to par, so therefore they're not getting their name and stuff out there. So it's such it's a very important thing to get branding down, but it's such a skill that, yeah, that's definitely a tough one to do too. um
yeah, yeah. It's
I'm
just
kind of thinking about that right now, like just how do you want to brand yourself and vision from the start, you know? And it's
yeah,
I don't know, it's one of the things, like I've seen y'all's little train with the logo and everything, and it's like it's like it's cool, it's an ingenious little design, you know.
yeah.
So
And it's like, there's so much that psychology that goes into like what happens when somebody sees a bag, right? So it's like you said, some awesome branded companies out there that just don't have good coffee, or not even just not even just good coffee, but like not my style of coffee. um Me and Colin were traveling up to Kentucky a few weeks ago and stopped through a city, and super awesome shop, super awesome branding, super cool vibe, but we couldn't finish the coffee. You know,
yeah.
it's like, it was like eating like circus peanuts, you know. So um but yeah, I mean, we always have people ship us some coffee. The branding's not great, like it's not quite there yet, but the coffee is just like, oh, you know, it's
Yeah.
insane. So yeah, that's just part of it.
Yep. It's definitely one of them concepts you have to get down. So, well, heck yeah, dude. Shoot, anything you want to share, kind of bring to the table?
I mean, I would just say like, as a young dude in coffee, like keep on trying. If anybody's listening to it, like keep on trying to do your concept. Because right now I know about 5 people who are kind of in the weeds of like getting their own concept started, and they're kind of close to getting there, but also close to giving up. So coffee is a hard thing to get into. It doesn't sound like it. It doesn't sound like an adult job, quote unquote. But yeah, just keep on trying and put your heart to it, man, because coffee is always going to be in demand, and it's always going to need passionate people behind it to make it what it is today. So yeah, that's what I would say to anybody, I guess.
Heck yeah, dude. Yeah, and that's what it's all about, dude. Just having passionate people in, the community of it. So I just think that's the coolest thing about it. So, well, cool deal, Marcus. I appreciate you coming on, dude. And if
Yeah,
hit me up in the future. And if I'm going to get up to Tupelo one day, I want to stop by, and I'll link everything down below and everything like that. So, heck yeah, dude. I'm going to come up there and visit y'all one day.
yeah, dude, come get a cup of coffee. Enjoy the space. We'll show you the roastery, and we do a really cool concept called the lab, where it's a bunch of beverages that we've created from scratch. So I think we're about to start. We're workshopping our spring menu right now, but yeah, and we have a Valentine's Day coming up next week that we're gonna do a date night for, and do a strawberry mocha where we do like freeze dried strawberries on top.
Oh, cool.
In the shape of a heart. So it's not like, it's not super sweet. That's what we try to avoid a lot, is like the super sweet, like frappuccinos and whatnot. So got that coming up. And then today, I mean, there's just always stuff going on at the shop, man. Today, right now, there's a thing called Cars and Coffee, and it's like a nationwide thing, but we have a car club in town. And I think like once or twice a month they do it at Lost and Found. They fill up our parking lot with super nice cars, man. I'm talking like cars I'll never even have, like never even think about having, just because. And they're doing car shows and all that and drinking coffee. And so yeah, man, we'd love to have you, and try to catch us on one of our events, dude. Would be a blast.
real quick, when do y'all think y'all gonna have y'all's coffee like for sale going? Y'all have like a ballpark idea?
Not really a ballpark idea. So I'm having it's kind of like a chestnut checkers game. I'm having to step out of coffee for 6 weeks next week. I'm in culinary school right now. I'm having to do my externship, and that is like an industry thing where I have to go work in a commercial kitchen and work with people. So I'll be up in Nashville for about 6 weeks. So unfortunately, in order for me to be able to do coffee better, I have to step out of it for 6 weeks. And then when we get back, we're going to hit the ground running, man. So once we get a bag design figured out, that's all we lack. So it could be May or June if I'm thinking about it, but I don't know the logistics behind getting everything else set up. So I would say just keep an eye out on our social, and keep an eye out in general.
Okay.
Because it's going to be soon for sure. That's a fact.
Dude, I really do want to get up there. So whenever y'all get it going, let me know, and I'd love to come up there, and I don't know, we can all hang out, shoot some little videos, and drink some coffee. So
yeah, absolutely. I have a question for you. What are you sipping on today, man? I've seen you've been drinking some coffee.
Yeah, actually, I think the last guy that was on from Colombia, he sent me some coffee. It's the fermentation type down there, anaerobic type, and I don't know, it's the weirdest stuff, dude. It's like this winey, even when you're brewing it, it has like a wine smell to it. And it's probably not for everybody, but I love it. It's like this super juicy type coffee, and it completely changes how, like, a normal Colombian coffee would taste. So it's different. I'm kind of wanting to explore it more and talk to more farmers that are kind of getting into this process. And I don't know if you've had any like anaerobic fermentation type coffee or whatever, but it's
I think I'm drinking different. One right now.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's so different, dude. I love it. So yeah, he sent me some of that, and I enjoy it.
That's super cool. Yeah, Colombia is killing it, man. Like their coffee farmer scene is just insane. Black and White sources a lot of their coffee from Colombia. They do like Ethiopians and whatnot, but yeah, right now I'm drinking a black label from Black and White that they sent us, and it's a anaerobic natural, really good, winey, also kind of like boozy. And then I ran out of it, so I blended it with another bag that I have from Black and White, and so it's like a fermented like tangerine almost. It's really good though. It sounds kind of weird, but it's really good.
It's weird, like, because it's not. It almost makes like the South American coffee like as acidic and fruity as like an Ethiopian, but it's like a different taste or something. I don't know. It's kind of it's hard for me to explain just yet. I need to definitely keep cupping, and I don't know. I enjoy it. I'm roasting it different ways. I want to roast it a little bit darker next time and kind of see what I can pull out from a little darker in. But no, it's like Colombia is definitely. I speak to a lot of people hit me up from Columbia and they're doing this or doing that or some new thing they're doing. And I'm like, wow, like there's a lot of people down in Columbia right now really trying to push these new interesting coffee, new areas of coffee, new types of coffee processing. And I don't see too many other regions. There's other regions doing it, but I feel Columbia is just a lot of people that reach out to me or they're wanting to do something different down there. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, that's what we love. I had the opportunity to roast a cultured fermentation coffee. And what they did was in the fermentation vat, kind of like you would with beer, right? Like you put all these ingredients to give it that flavor. In the fermentation vat, they put toasted coconuts and fermented pineapple in it, and it added this whole new dimension. Not necessarily like a flavored coffee, because like when you drink it, it's coffee, but like it had this weird dynamic of like a new level, like outside flavors, doing something to the fermentation process. It was a good coffee, man. But it came from Colombia as well, so it's just like they're killing it, man.
Yeah, they're definitely doing some crazy experiments and stuff down there, and I love it. Like I'm not one that's like always by the book, not try anything. Like I want to try it all, dude. I want to try it all. So yeah, that's super cool. Well, Marcus, I appreciate you coming on, dude. And like I said, keep in touch, and whenever y'all get it up and going, I want to come up there, dude. So
yeah, absolutely. Whenever you get your space, you'll have to hit us up, man.
Dude. And that's the other thing. I can't wait to just have a space where I can invite people down and do like a lot more of this in person and stuff, and like, I don't know, just learn from people, teach people, just do whatever we can, So
yeah, absolutely, man. Well, it's good catching up.
All right, Marcus, have a good one, dude.
You too, brother.
Later, buddy.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Coffee Runs Deep podcast. I truly appreciate you watching. Thank you, Marcus, for coming on and putting up with my poor internet connection. Can't wait to get up there and visit you guys soon. Thank you so much to the patrons for making these episodes possible. I will have your coffee shipped out as soon as my bags come in, which will hopefully be soon. Please leave a review if you so feel the urge to do so, and I'll see you next week. Love you guys.